I'm eating. Leave me alone. I'm done eating. These are the Konpeitou switches from ThickTalk. They are a progressive linear switch that was released alongside the marshmallow switches. The one thing different about these switches is that these switches come with two different stems. The switch comes built with a JWK GX material stem, which is a new material. It's a stem that's made with a new material with a lower friction coefficient and features an extended stem to improve the sound profile of the switch. Switches also come with palm stems in a separate bag. They say that if the JX stem has a lot of wobble, swap with the palm stem. The housing material is made of a custom nylon housing, and the springs are ThickTalk's MP series progressive 68 gram springs. The actuation force is at around 50 grams and the actuation distance is approximately 1.4 millimeters. Now I already got the marshmallow switches and didn't really look into the Konpeitou switches and thought they were just a different color of the same switch. But the JX stem does have a longer stem, which does change the sound profile of the switch. Luckily, a friend of mine purchased these switches on the March 2021 drop, and I was able to try them out. I tried both the Palm and JX stems and wanted to see what the differences between the two were. The stock version of these switches feel like stock switches. They have a signature stock sound where the switch sounds a bit hollow. The feel is slightly scratchy for both the Palm and JX stem. What I could say is that the sound profiles of the two are slightly different. The Palm stem variant has a higher pitch than the JX material. If I were to really focus in on the feel of the switches, the JX stem is slightly scratchier than the Palm stem. If we were to look at both of these switches, as the manufacturer states, the JX stem does have a lot more wobble than the Palm stem. The Palm stem doesn't really have no wobble entirely. It does have a little bit of wobble, but it's definitely less than the JX stem. Ping wise, there's slightly scratchy ping noise coming from the leaf, but it's nothing too big of a deal. I'm pretty sure if you just did a lube job, the leaf ping will go away. But I don't think I can recall any spring ping coming from the switches though. From what I'm feeling so far, I prefer the feel of the Palm stem switches, but I do like the sound profile of the JX stem. But we don't really use stock switches in this hobby, you know? I mean, like, okay, we do use stock switches, but I mean, okay, nothing wrong with liking stock switches, but like the lube switches? I'm gonna just stop there before I dig myself a grave. So how about the lubed experience of these switches? How do they feel? Which one feels smoother? Which one sounds nicer? Well, let's start with the Palm stem version of these switches. Firstly, these are clacky, and I like it. Like, when I put these switches into the keyboard, my reaction legit was just, whoa. To be honest with you guys, when I saw other keep streamers and keyboard influencers and whatever the fucking other words are, and their switches, I legit thought I was doing something wrong with how I lube my switches, but it turns out I'm just bad at picking switches, I guess. But these Konpeitou switches with the Palm stems are a very nice switch, both sound and feel. The feel of these switches are very smooth, surprisingly. They don't feel heavy at all. I think that it's just the progressive spring and the actuation doing its job. The switch having a 1.4 millimeter actuation and a 68 gram progressive spring, you're probably not going to notice the heaviness due to the fact that the switch actually, I'm just being bullshit again. But yeah, I really like the Palm stems. The switch feels smooth. The clack is very satisfying sound. and they aren't the heaviest feeling switch to my surprise. Now moving on to the JWK JX stem variant, how do these feel? Well, these honestly threw me off. I was expecting them to be a lot louder, being that they do have a longer... They said longer stem. They said a fucking longer stem. Alright, let me explain. So when I read that these had a longer stem, I was assuming they had a longer stem pole, which is that little pole that the stem has where the spring goes, you know what I'm talking about. I thought that was what was longer, cause I did look at the fucking stems myself, and I was like, these poles are the same length. What the hell are they talking about? But it was the literal fucking stem where the fucking keycaps go on there that are longer. God damn it. Well, moving on, the JX stems do have a different sound profile. They sound a bit more chiclety. There's a fucking word again. Nothing wrong with the sound of the switches. I think the sound of these switches are very satisfying as well. I don't think it complements the Monster Gear board to create a great sound profile, but I'm sure it would sound great in another board out there. Smoothness of these switches, very smooth, no scratchiness, no pinging, similar to the palm stem version of these switches. Now comes down to the question of which one is better, the palm or the JX stem? Which one is smoother? Which one is the best of the two? I don't fucking know. Like, I want to give you an answer, but I legit spent half a fucking hour trying to figure out which one felt smoother, and they both legit feel the same. The JX stem feels slightly lighter than the palm stem, giving the illusion that it is smoother. But, like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would the stem make the switch lighter when that is the spring's job? So I'm gonna leave it at, it depends on your preference. For me at least, I prefer the palm stem version of these switches, being that these switches are in the Monster Gear with a brass plate. So I might fucking hate the palm stem version of these switches if it were in another board. I don't fucking know. A combination of a switch with what the plate they go on, what mounting system the keyboard is, and what keyboard case they go into, it all really is a factor on what they feel and sound like. But for me, with the Monster Gear keyboard, I could say I prefer the palm stem version of these switches. So now is the question of, would I recommend these switches? Yes. Okay, firstly, let's talk about the price of these switches. They cost $8 for 10 switches, or 80 cents per switch, which is really expensive. I mean, don't get me wrong, these are great feeling switches, but for a lot of people in the keyboard hobby, they will look at the price of this switch and question whether or not it is a good idea to purchase. I mean, think about those people who are looking for switches to put into their TKL. Exactly. They're spending $70 to $80 on switches alone for their board, and that's not even including the cost of the board they're using. Now, I'm not saying nobody will buy these switches purely because of the price. Of course not. Have you seen some of the switches I buy? You've only seen a few of them, but holy shit. I regret a lot of my decisions, to be honest. But the feel of these switches, in my opinion, justifies the cost of them. Plus, you are getting another pair of stems that you can use in the switches, or even try some Spranken switching with. You don't see Draw Pulley Pandas or Gateron Inks do that shit, and they cost nearly the same as these Konpeitou switches. So, in conclusion, these switches are a very smooth linear, both palm and JX stem variants, and they're a great progressive linear switch to try, daily drive, or add to your switch collection. Hey, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. I also have other YouTube content about switches and keyboards. Go check that out. If you like that as well, hit the subscribe button. I also stream on Twitch every once in a while. I try to stream every Wednesdays and Fridays. Every once in a while, I also do like a random stream on like fucking Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whichever one. Honestly, the stream schedule is pretty fucked right now, but go check me out at twitch.tv/smilingdown. Here's a clip some of the things that I do over there. Here you go, bud. Oh, look, there's a woman on here. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.